My husband hid me at the party. The CEO found me and said, "I've been searching for you." The fabric of my cheap, off-brand evening dress scratched against my skin, a constant, irritating reminder that I didn't belong here. I stood in the dim, cramped confines of the mansion's secondary pantry, surrounded by crates of expensive champagne and spare linens. Just 10 minutes ago, my husband, Mark, had practically shoved me into this room. His grip on my wrist had been bruisingly tight, his voice a frantic, harsh whisper. "Stay here, Elena. Do not come out. This party is for top-tier investors and the elite. If the board members see me with a wife who looks like this, it will ruin my chances of promotion. I'll come get you when the main event is over." Asterisk. Before I could even protest, the door had clicked shut, leaving me alone in the dark. For 3 years, I had supported Mark. I worked 2 jobs to pay off his business school debts, wore clothes from thrift stores, and skipped meals so he could buy the designer suits required to fit in at his high-profile corporate job. And now, on the biggest night of his career, the annual gala of Vanguard Enterprises, his appreciation was hiding me away like a dirty secret. Tears of humiliation pricked my eyes, but I forced them back. I refused to cry over a man who was ashamed of me. I looked around the pantry. A small, frosted glass window looked out into a secluded section of the mansion's sprawling gardens. I couldn't stay in this cage. I pushed the window open, carefully climbed through, and dropped onto the soft, damp grass outside. The night air was cool, carrying the faint, elegant melody of a live orchestra from the grand ballroom. I walked along the stone path, away from the glittering lights, seeking the solace of the shadows. I found a secluded stone bench near a massive rose garden, completely hidden from the main patio. I sat down, burying my face in my hands, letting the weight of my failing marriage crush me in silence. "You know, the roses are beautiful, but they aren't worth crying over." A deep, smooth voice broke the silence. I gasped, looking up quickly. Standing a few feet away was a man. Even in the moonlight, his presence was commanding. He was tall, dressed in a flawlessly tailored tuxedo that made Mark's expensive suit look like a cheap imitation. His dark hair was neatly styled, and his sharp, piercing gray eyes were fixed entirely on me. "I'm sorry," I stammered, wiping my face hastily. "I didn't mean to trespass. I'll leave." As I stood up to walk away, he stepped into my path. He didn't touch me, but his presence stopped me instantly. He looked at me, really looked at me, studying my face with an intensity that made my breath catch. "Elena," he whispered, his voice laced with a mixture of disbelief and profound relief. I blinked, confused. Do I know you?" A slow, breathtaking smile spread across his handsome face. "You don't recognize me, do you? I suppose it has been 7 years. And back then, I didn't have a multi-billion-dollar empire." My eyes widened as the puzzle pieces suddenly clicked together. The sharp jawline, the distinct gray eyes, the slight dimple on his left cheek. Julian Vance. In the flesh, he murmured, stepping closer. "The nerdy scholarship kid you used to share your lunch with in college. The one you saved from dropping out by paying his final semester tuition with your own savings." My heart hammered against my ribs. Julian Vance. The reclusive, brilliant tech prodigy who had vanished right after graduation and built Vanguard Enterprises from the ground up. He wasn't just a guest at this party. He was the host. He was the CEO. "Julian," I breathed, looking down at my faded dress. "Look at you. You've changed the world. I can't believe it's you. I've been searching for you, Elena," Julian said, his voice thick with unexpressed emotion. "For 3 years, I've had private investigators looking for you. But you changed your last name when you got married, and you moved across the country. I almost gave up hope. You were looking for me. Why, to give you this," he said, reaching into his breast pocket and pulling out a sleek, black checkbook. He took out a pen, signed a blank check, and handed it to me. "And to give you back what you gave me, with interest. But more than that, I wanted to find the only woman who ever believed in me when I had nothing." Before I could process his words, the sound of loud, angry footsteps echoed down the stone path. "Elena, what the hell are you doing out here?" Mark's voice shattered the moment. Mark strode into the garden light, his face flushed with anger. He didn't even notice Julian standing in the shadow of the rose bushes. He grabbed my upper arm roughly. "I told you to stay in the room. One of the senior VPs saw you climbing out of the window. Do you have any idea how embarrassing that is for me? You are completely ruining my... Take your hands off her. Julian's voice wasn't loud, but it possessed a lethal, freezing calm that made Mark instantly freeze. Mark snapped his head toward the shadow. As Julian stepped forward into the full moonlight, Mark's face drained of all color. His jaw dropped, and his hand slipped off my arm as if he had just touched hot iron. Mr. Vance, Mark stammered, his voice trembling violently. Sir, I apologize. I didn't see you there. This is just my wife. She's not supposed to be here. She's clumsy, she gets confused at big events. I was just taking her home so she wouldn't disrupt your beautiful gala. Julian didn't look at Mark. His eyes remained fixed on me, softening into pure warmth, before snapping back to Mark with a cold, terrifying gaze. Your wife, Julian repeated slowly, testing the words. So, you are the man who married Elena. And you think she is an embarrassment? No, I mean, yes, sir, she doesn't know how to behave in high society, Mark babbled, desperate to save his career. I was just trying to protect my position at your company. I've worked so hard for Vanguard. You are fired, Mark, Julian interrupted calmly. Mark choked on his own breath. What, sir, please, you can't be serious. Over a misunderstanding with my wife. You didn't just disrespect your wife, Mark. You insulted the woman who made Vanguard Enterprises possible, Julian said, his voice echoing with absolute authority. Without Elena's generosity 7 years ago, I wouldn't have founded this company. You are standing in a mansion built on her kindness, wearing a suit bought with her hard work, and you had the audacity to lock her in a pantry because you were ashamed of her. Mark looked between Julian and me, his eyes wide with absolute horror and realization. Elena, you know Mr. Vance. I looked at Mark. For years, I had felt small, insignificant, and unloved in his shadow. But looking at him now, groveling and terrified, the illusion broke. I felt nothing but pity. She used to know me, Julian corrected, stepping right beside me and offering me his arm. But from tonight on, she won't have anything to do with a coward like you. Security is already on their way to escort you off my property. Your termination letter will be emailed to you by midnight. 2 large security guards emerged from the shadows, stepping firmly between Mark and us. Mark tried to call out my name, begging me to speak to Julian on his behalf, but the guards swiftly and quietly led him away into the darkness. Silence fell over the garden once more. I stood there, my heart racing, feeling the immense weight of the last 3 years finally lifting off my shoulders. I looked at Julian's offered arm, then up at his steady, supportive eyes. The main ballroom is waiting, Julian said softly, a gentle smile returning to his lips. And I would be deeply honored if the most important guest of the evening would walk in by my side. No more hiding, Elena. It's your time to shine. I took a deep breath, placed my hand firmly on his arm, and smiled. Lead the way, Julian.